Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook for September 2nd, 2025. We have our eastern Atlantic area that we are talking about today, which chances are increasing for development in that it might potentially become our next tropical system here in the Atlantic. And then we're going to shift our focus as well to the eastern Pacific as things are still active there. And it looks like we might actually see some impacts to Mexico in the Eastern Pacific because of new tropical storms which have developed today. So we have a lot to go over. Let's dive right into it, starting off, of course, with the National Hurricane Center homepage. We have our Eastern Atlantic area of interest, and chances have gone up quite decently in the last day or so. The latest 2 p.m. advisory now gives us a 70% chance of development within the next 7 days, although right now in the next 48 hours, still a low chance of 30%. But chances are increasing that this will probably become our next named system here in the tropical Atlantic. And this is going to move off to the west-northwest. But I'm going to talk to you about the fact that we might need to watch this for quite a bit, especially as we head towards the end of the week here in the northern Antilles Islands, because we've had quite a decent southerly trend in the models, especially with the GFS today. And I'm actually going to show you that trend from the 0Z model today to the 12Z, which came out not long ago. So we'll go over all of that in a little bit. But really quickly, let's talk about what's happening in the Eastern Pacific because things are getting quite active there. We have Hurricane Kiko, which is now beginning to quickly intensify. It is up to Category 1 intensity. It was only a tropical storm yesterday, and this is probably going to strengthen further. Would not shock me if this becomes a major. In fact, I think the National Hurricane Center already forecasts this to become major. Just got to see what tab is Hurricane Kiko's intensity. And Tropical Storm Lorena, which formed today as well, or I think yesterday. Well, I think it became a depression yesterday, and then it strengthened into Lorena this morning. Intensity as of the 8 a.m. advisory, 45 miles an hour, 1,004 millibars. And this is also going to strengthen to a hurricane and potentially curve back to the northeast here and make landfall in the Baja California Peninsula here in northwestern Mexico. And this will probably bring heavy rain, and I'll also mention to you that we'll probably see as well a decent chance for heavy rain and maybe some flooding for portions of the southwest United States, and general moisture as Lorena will curve off here to the northeast and make landfall in Mexico. I'll go over all of that in a little bit. But let's go on to the satellite image of the Eastern Pacific right now to give you a view of both of our storms today. You can see Hurricane Kiko here doing pretty well off to the west, and that's going to continue to move off to the west in the Pacific. And then we have Lorena, which is a pretty disorganized mess right now, although it is still trying to intensify, and it'll probably intensify pretty decently over the next several days, and and potentially become a hurricane before once again it begins to curve off to the northeast and then makes landfall here in the Baja Peninsula. But let's start off with looking at Hurricane Kiko, and you can definitely tell it is a hurricane now. We are starting to see these curling convective bands here around the eye wall of the storm, very much a signature of an intensifying hurricane. And this is probably going to strengthen further. It's already a Category 1 storm. You can already see that there is an eye here that's trying to develop in Kiko. And this is probably going to strengthen further. The National Hurricane Center does forecast that this will become a major, and it'll probably do so by tomorrow. And then it'll probably remain a major hurricane until Thursday before it then weakens as the week goes on. And it'll probably be a hurricane still, but weakening by the time we get to the end of this week. But so far, at least with Kiko, no land impacts expected, which is a good thing. But obviously, that is not the case with Tropical Storm Lorena. And as you can see here, once again, convectively, pretty messy right now. We have all this convection that's all over the place, although there is probably some which is resulting in bringing heavy rain probably right now to portions of the Mexican coastline here. But we're not looking at a landfall along the main Mexican coastline. We're looking at a potential landfall in the Baja Peninsula. So Kiko will not bring land impacts, but Lorena will. The National Hurricane Center forecasts that this will strengthen to a hurricane as we get towards tomorrow, and then as we head into the end of the week, especially as we get into Friday and Saturday, this will begin to make a turn off to the northeast, and eventually make landfall here along Baja California, and then weaken as we head into the weekend, and then eventually we'll probably see a lot of moisture left over from whatever comes in here with Lorena in the southwestern United States, and we're gonna see a lot of rainfall there, but we're also gonna see a lot of rainfall too here for the Baja Peninsula. This is the official rainfall forecast, I believe, from the National Weather Service, and maybe data as well from the Mexican government. I'm not sure, but it actually says here WPC International Desk's rainfall forecast. So this is a international section of the WPC. They forecast as much as 12 inches of rainfall, so up to a foot of rain locally for portions along Baja California Sur, or southern Baja California, and then into the state of Sonora in Mexico. And then we have rainfall that'll probably occur generally along the central southern to Baja Peninsula, and then portions of central northern northwestern Mexico. And then eventually, once again, this is all going to translate into the southwestern Atlantic, and probably bring some rain and moisture for them too. And the reason why I'm bringing up the rainfall, because again, as I always say, the number one killer when it comes to tropical cyclones, no matter how strong they are, is the rain. It's the storm surge, and I don't think there's much forecasted in the way of storm surge right now, but I'm pretty sure that will be an issue. But it seems like the rainfall will be the number one issue here with Lorena as it makes landfall. And I do want to give you a heads up because, again, rainfall is the number one impact on the number one cause of death in tropical cyclones, and a lot of people tend to forget that. But really quickly, moving on now to the eastern Atlantic. This is where we have our other area of interest, and let me really quickly reload this so I can get a new satellite shot for you. Not that it's going to make much of a difference anyways, because there's really not much happening right now. But in the eastern Atlantic, we have our tropical wave here that we're watching. And again, this now has a high chance of development in the next week. Not too organized right now. This is embedded within the ITCZ, so it's stringing out a lot of the energy associated with the wave. And you can see that pretty clearly on the 850 millibar vorticity map here in the eastern Atlantic. You can see it's connected to the ITCZ, so because of that, we probably will not see too quick of organization with this wave in the shorter term, but definitely as we progress through the rest of the week here, we'll start to slowly see this organize, and probably by the end of the week, we'll probably start to see this break off from the ITCZ and then eventually go on to develop and probably become our next tropical storm. And then you also see we have this feature here off the southeast coast. Definitely an interesting looking feature, and this is associated with a stalled front off the southeast and the Gulf of Mexico. As again, we've generally been having a lot of troughiness here in the eastern United States. And I will say that with whatever does develop here in the eastern Atlantic because of this, we probably will see this storm turn out to sea with whatever happens. The ridge is going to be pretty strong here in the eastern Atlantic, but obviously there will be a pathway out to sea because of the troughiness that we have here along the East Coast and in the Western Atlantic. So I wouldn't be too worried about any direct impacts or any potential chance at all, really, for impacts for at least the United States with whatever develops here. But as I'll show you in a little bit, I think the Northern Islands are going to have to start watching a little bit closely. And in fact, let me show you why with the GFS model right now, and then I'll show you the Euro. Let me actually close this tab here for Twitter because I did not bring up anything with Twitter. I was just looking at something earlier before I started recording. But anyway, let's show you what the GFS shows here over the next several days. It takes a little bit of time for our area of interest to get going here in the Eastern Atlantic, but it eventually does so as we head into Thursday night and Friday. And then the GFS develops this pretty quickly. Oh wait, this is actually the 12Z run. This is the 0Z run. I want to show you what the 12Z shows. And again, develops around Friday, and then very strong ridge here in the central northern Atlantic. And this actually brings us in a much more westerly, west-northwesterly direction over the next several days. And that actually brings you to the trend that I wanted to show you on the GFS today. You could already see there's quite a major difference from when I just ran the 0Z to the 12Z now. 12Z run showing a lot more of a stronger ridge and quite a southwesterly dip in the overall track. And obviously this is still ways off and north of the Caribbean islands here in the northeastern Caribbean, but it is enough of a southerly trend that is quite interesting, and I just want to show you by frame instead of showing you by model run, by full run. Here's the 12Z run as of hour 180, so this is next Wednesday, so just over a week from now. You could see still out to sea, and you can see we have a very strong ridge in the Eastern Atlantic, but there's a trough here that's digging through the central United States, probably going to allow for enough of a weakness here along the East Coast that, again, this will probably turn out to sea. But just want to compare you, look at where the position on the 12Z is, just north of the Caribbean islands. Here, compared to the 0Z, quite a bit of difference. And this is really important because we're going to have to watch to see if this trend continues. And just really quickly comparing the two, you can definitely see a much weaker ridge and a much more northerly based ridge here on the 0Z, and also the trough here and the short wave coming down from Canada into the eastern United States. This is also much stronger, so I guess it also is making this ridge here weaker. And you can see that it results in a much more southerly track compared to the 0Z, and it's much more in line with the euro. That's one thing that I'm seeing a lot of people saying, is that it's much more in line with the euro, and I'll show you what the 0Z euro has. And it does have a weaker storm, and that probably partially contributes to why the euro is a little bit more south, because obviously this takes a little bit more time to develop. Here by Saturday, this is on the 0Z run of the European. Still, we don't even have a fully developed system yet. It doesn't really fully develop until really next week on the European model run, and I guess the euro is showing a little bit more in the way of dry air and shear impacting this area of interest. As I said, there will be some of that in the northern MDR because of the TUT feature that'll be present, and maybe that might contribute to slower development, and that's what the euro shows, but does have a much more southerly track, especially compared to the 0Z run of the GFS. But the 12Z has come a lot more in line with the euro, and let's actually compare the 0Z euro to the 12Z GFS here. Definitely much more in line with each other. Let me actually zoom this out. See, it definitely is a little bit more in line, although I will say that the euro is also kind of slower too, interestingly enough, on the 0Z run. So definitely lots to hash out here with this area of interest, if that's one thing you're taking away from it. There's definitely still a lot to hash out, definitely still things that could change and trends that we'll need to watch. And it really depends on how quickly this comes together, but I will say it's very interesting that the GFS today did shift quite a ways further south on the 12Z run compared to the 0Z. But I actually did mention this on Twitter earlier. It always seemed like the GFS was always more further to the north compared to all the other major models, including the euro. And I also brought up on Twitter earlier, I believe, the the AI model. Maybe I'll actually show you the ensembles for the AI and the Euro and the GFS tomorrow, and we'll compare and contrast what the ensembles show. But we'll see. There's a lot to go over with this area of interest here in the Atlantic. And it's probably also going to get an invest too. Surprised that it's not gotten an invest yet, but watch as I post this today, and immediately the National Hurricane Center will give this an invest. But we'll see. We'll definitely be an invest by tomorrow, though. I'll give you that, and we'll definitely be watching this area here in the Atlantic throughout the rest of the week too. And of course, we'll continue to watch what's happening in the Eastern Pacific as well, as there might be impacts coming up there. But that's going to do it for today's video, though. If you enjoyed what you saw, please give this video a like, comment, and subscribe. And comment if you have any thoughts. And if you subscribe, I hope you do, especially if you are new. Please make sure to turn on the notification bell so you can get videos the moment I upload them. Because I'm going to be doing these videos every single day from here on out, especially now that we're in the month of September. So please make sure to stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. And of course, as always, I'll be back with more tomorrow. See you then.